Okay, wow. We have a nice parasha, I mean, a challenging parasha. Usually by this time of the year, we're getting closer to Purim. So we don't teach this parasha yet so much. So we're going to try to do our best. Last week, we had Parashat Terumah that was all about the kelim in the Bet HaMikdash, in the Mishkan, right? We didn't go so much into the details, but even in this Chumashim, you know, let's just do a fast overview and look at the pictures, at least, of the kelim of the Mishkan. So page 447, last week Parashat Terumah started describing to us about the Aron. The Aron is the ark. What was put inside the ark? What was inside the ark? Inside the ark, we had the Luchot, the 10 commandments that Hashem just gave us in Har Sinai. So I just want to tell you that what all the Mefarshim and everybody that studies this parashiot in our days, we try to learn it in two levels. One is getting the information, knowing how it was, the details. Even there is in Israel, especially in Israel, there is so many institutes that are focused on understanding the kelim on the Mishkan, the kelim on the Bet HaMikdash. There is a yeshiva called Yeshivat Torat Kohanim, where young men that are Kohen go there and they learn everything they need to know to be ready to work in the Bet HaMikdash. And so Bezrat Hashem, in the moment it's built, they're ready. They know what to do. They're really ready. They know exactly how to make the clothing and every one of the kelim. But we also try to get some symbolic message. Not only, please mute yourself on Zoom, girls, mute yourself, please. So we also try to get symbolic messages. For example, a beautiful message that we get from the Aron. Again, the Aron was the ark, was the holiest of all the kelim, the utensils in the Bet HaMikdash. And how was it built? Do you know? Okay, the Aron, the ark, was in the outside, on the outside was gold, zahav ta'or, pure. Inside, it was wood, but inside, Hashem is asking from us also to make it pure gold. So it was like, imagine 3 boxes, one inside of the other, gold, wood, gold. And they ask themselves, why? Why does it have to be? We understand the gold outside, of course, is for beauty. You know, as when you buy jewelry, like the outside gold, it looks even like gold. So it's for beauty, for splendor, to make it look fancy and special, since this is going to be a container for the holiest of objects, the arks, the tablets. Why the gold inside? And our rabbis learn a beautiful message. The Aron is teaching us how important it is to be toho kebaro, the inside as the outside. All what we show ourselves in front of others, that we are so good and so nice and so smiley, that should be the real feelings that we have inside our hearts. Okay, so this is the Aron. Page 449, we have the Shulchan. The Shulchan was like a table where the Kohanim were supposed to put there 12 loaves of bread, and this bread was changed once a week, and it would stay good. The shape of the bread is very peculiar, as you say. It's like it's like a square, and there was only one family that had the recipe of how to make this bread. I don't remember the name. I didn't prepare this material for now, but I remember reading about this family that in their homes, they never baked fine cakes with fine flours as the same flours that were used for this bread. So nobody will suspect them that they were taking personal use of what they have to do for the Bet HaMikdash. Okay, let's go fast. Then we have on page 441, what do we have there? We have the menorah. The menorah, also zahav taor, all of it, one whole piece of gold. We're going to speak a little bit more about the menorah later, because that's how our parasha begins. And so on page 457, you see the wood, how the planks were done, and on 461 we see the altar. This is where the korbanot were offered. And look on 463, you see the whole image of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. So again, think all the time, this is slaves that left Egypt. And then they have this project to build a Mishkan, a place where we're going to be connecting with Akadosh Baruch Hu. Another thing, I don't know if you paid attention, on page 461, you see that there are like these rings and this, how you call this, the motot, where you, poles. Every one of the kelim of the Mishkan had rings on it, and these poles, why? Who can guess? Because they have to carry from place to place. The life in the desert was like this. Israel were in one place, and suddenly they would see that the clouds are moving. Then they have to take all the pekalach and move wherever Hashem told them to go. Sometimes it would be after a month, sometimes it would be after a day. And they have to be ready, and with an amazing organization. Everyone knew in the Levi'im, everyone knew its job, who takes what, how do they walk. Very, very organized. That's how Hashem taught us to move in the desert. Another thing that I forgot to tell you about the Aron, in the Aron, the poles would never come out of the rings. They were always put inside. They were directed to keep them inside. Why? As a symbol, as a teaching that the Jew, wherever he goes, whenever he has to leave, there is one thing that has always needs to be ready to take with you, which is the Torah. And this is a very important message. Doesn't matter if you go to live in Jerusalem or in Mea Sharim or in Bnei Brak or in a place where everybody has Torah. Even if you go as a single Jew to live in a remote place where there is no other Jews, you have to take with you your Torah. You have to organize yourself in a way that you are going to be able to live a life of Torah. So this was last week parasha, just for us to get into the mood, and because we didn't see it last week. As we said last week, it was so important that Hashem brought us out of this mood of entitlement, of being a people of only receiving and change our mood and our attitude into an attitude of giving, of doing for, of feeling that I have a project, that I have things to do for Hashem as well. It's not only me receiving. So it is really elevating as a nation. Next parasha, this is our parasha today, is called Parasha Tetsaveh. Tetsaveh means you shall command, you shall order. Hashem is telling this to Moshe Rabbeinu. I have to tell you that I really, really enjoyed reading the essays from Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. I say, Zichrono Livracha, he passed away too early, but I can feel that he is alive. What an amount of people of Am Israel are studying Torah from his words. And it gives us really the feeling how important it is to try to live things of essence in this life. Like, one day till 120, we're not going to be here. In what way are we still going to be here? And I think I was thinking about that. Like, Rabbi Sachs is here. He had this amazing quality of bringing this concept of the Torah that seems so far away from us, especially today that we don't have the Mishkan, that we don't have the Bet HaMikdash, and he brought them in this so relevant to our days. He put them really, he put them in a tray for us to enjoy and to be able to connect to the Torah and feel that Torah speaks to me even today in our century that we don't have, unfortunately, the Bet HaMikdash and the facility to connect to these concepts. Okay, so our parasha, if last parasha was about the utensils, the name is Covenant and Conversation from Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. I think he has one for each one of the books. And you can find a lot of his writings online as well. Covenant and Conversation, even in YouTube, you can find a small shiur on each one of the parashiyot. So if last week parasha was about the kelim of the Mishkan, this parasha is about what? Anybody? About? Beautiful. It's about the clothing of the Kohen. Yes, one of my best students, you see? You have to come to the class to witness that. So the parasha speaks about how Hashem tells Moshe what should be the clothing of the Kohen. But it does not begin with that mitzvah. It begins with a mitzvah that is connected to the menorah. I start reading. Ve'ata Tetsaveh et bnei Israel. Now you shall command the children of Israel elecha, vayikhu elecha shemen zayit zach katit lamaor leha'alot ner tamid, that they shall take for you clear olive oil, crushed for illumination, to kindle a lamp continually. Be'oel moed, where should that be? In the tent of meeting, outside the partition that is near the testimonial tablets. Aaron and his sons shall arrange it from evening till morning before Hashem, an eternal decree for their generations from the children of Israel. Okay, so what is the mitzvah here that Am Israel is receiving in regards to the menorah? That what? We should bother ourselves to have olive oil. Olive oil is considered the best oil to light candles. You know, I hope everybody knows by now that we Sephardim try very much to light Shabbat candles as well with olive oil. The same way for Hanukkah candles. The muvchar, the best to light the Hanukkah candles, is using olive oil. It's because Chachamim understood that the flame that comes from olive oil is better than a regular other candle. So what is this mitzvah? We have to have the menorah with the light on. The menorah was put very near or ahead of the Aron. So here was the Aron, then there was a curtain, then there was a menorah, and the menorah had to be lit every single day. The one that was doing that mitzvah was usually the Kohen, right? But the Torah is telling us what oil should be brought for this. I read from here, this requirement of absolute purity is a fitting prelude to the selection of Aaron and his sons as Kohanim, for they too must remain pure and separate from the rest of the nation. The same way that we are going to use pure oil, and the oil usually floats and doesn't mix with other liquids, so how the Kohanim are going to be for Am Israel. I read beautiful midrashim in regards to the menorah, because again, what does the Mishkan seem to be? A house for whom? For Hashem. It seems to be that we're building a house for our king, a palace for our king. And the question we asked it last week, does our king need a house? Does our king need a table? Does our king need an ark? He doesn't need anything. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not need anything. What in regards to the menorah? To light the lights of the menorah, so what? So he has light, so he can see around? Does HaKadosh Baruch Hu need the menorah? Who is that for? This is mainly for us. Now, the menorah usually, the light represented the illumination of the mind, the ability to discern between the right and the wrong, between the things that you have to understand. So it's about the intellectual ability. That's what the menorah represented. Torah comes from the source root of or. What is or? Light. So who is the menorah for? Let me just read you one of the midrashim, and then we'll continue about the need of Hashem for the menorah. Sorry, here it is. Here. I have to choose one. Okay, there's two rabbis in the Talmud that gave two illustrations to how much Hashem needs the light. So both Rabbi Avina and Rabbi Berechia gave two illustrations. Rabbi Avina said, the sun, Hashem is telling us, the sun is one of my ministers, and when it shines, no creature can withstand its glare. The sun is the menorah that Hashem has there in the sky, right? When he turns it on, we cannot even look at it. It blinds our eyes. So Hashem says, do I then need your light? How can I need your light when I am the one that leads on the sun, that is so powerful? Said Rabbi Abba, it pleased the Lord for his righteousness' sake to magnify the Torah and make it honorable. I came only to endow you with many presents, to give man the opportunity of gaining merit by observing them. The purpose of us lighting the menorah is because Hashem wants to give us the opportunities to make mitzvot and to actually the light is for us, it's not for Hashem. Another illustration that Rabbi Avina gave, this, the lightning is one of the products of eternal fire, darting its flashes from one end of the world to the other. Do I need your light? Hashem is saying. And another one, this I love this, Rabbi Berachia said, the eyeball in our eyes provides vision for man through its black part, the pupil, right? And not the white. So said the Holy One, blessed be he. I, Hashem says, I am able. I have created light even in the midst of darkness. So do I need your light? And there is more illustrations. Like our rabbis in a very, literary way try to show us Hashem does not need the light of the menorah. It's more for you. It's more for you to feel the light and the splendor that it is inside the Mishkan and the Bet HaMikdash, and it's going to go out to the world. Okay, now the parasha starts speaking about the clothing of the Kohen. We're going to see the clothing here. Again, let's see the illustration. It's going to be easier for us to follow. So there is a difference between Kohen Gadol and Kohen Hediot. Kohen Gadol is the main Kohen, and the Hediot is the simple one. The Kohen, the regular Kohen, had 4 parts on his uniform, and the Kohen Gadol had in total 8 elements on his vestments, right? So look on page 28, okay? Here we have the ketonet. What is the ketonet? It's like a tunic that was worn underneath. And this was something that both the Kohen Hediot and the Kohen Gadol would wear. You see it? 467. Let me just see if there is a pasuk that we should write. We should read together. There is a pasuk that brings, yes, pasuk 4, pasuk dalet. Look, pasuk dalet, pasuk 4. The English on page 465, pasuk 4. These are the vestments that they shall make. This is for the Kohen Gadol, yes? A breastplate, we're going to speak about them soon. An ephod, a robe, a tunic of a box-like knit, a turban, and a sash. What is the... a sash is like a, how you say? A belt, okay? They shall make vestments of sanctity for Aaron, your brother, and his sons to minister me. We still miss 2 other clothing. So for now, what did we say? We said the breastplate is going from the outer element to the inner one. The breastplate is the one that goes outside. What is the breastplate? You know what is a breastplate? The choshen is what the Kohen used to wear. Imagine it's like a jewel. It's like a decorative element. It seems like that. So it's like a chain, and it has like a square. And what does it have inside? Stones. How many stones in total? 12 stones as the names of the tribes of Israel. Then there was an ephod. The ephod, look on the page 28. You see it? 467, sorry. You see the ephod? The ephod also had some stones on the shoulders, and it has shoulder straps. It had a belt where it was tied on the back. This is the ephod of the Kohen Gadol. After the ephod comes a tunic of a box-like knit. This is the tunic. Okay, sorry, so first the robe. The robe goes on top of the tunic. It was blue. The Kohen Gadol would wear a blue tunic, and then the kutonet. We are missing here. Here is the choshen on page 28. You see the illustration of the choshen? We're going to speak more about it. And on page 470, it shows it better, how it has avnei miluim, and it had, you read here, tabaot is the rings, and fold for urim vetumim. We're going to speak soon what is the urim vetumim. Go back, continue to 473. I just want us to see the pictures before I speak about it. Here you have the tzitz. What is the tzitz? Is like a head plate, is like a crown. It's something that the Kohen would wear on his forehead. And here you see the Kohen Gadol with everything, his 8 vestments. There is one that we don't see it, and I didn't mention it. Which one is that? No, is pants underneath. And the Torah doesn't mention it at the beginning because that was something that everybody would have to wear as well. Okay? I cannot hear you. So you see, he had like a turban wearing, the Kohen Gadol. If they put tefillin at the time, the Torah was already given. So I suppose the very interesting question, because the tzitz represents also what the tefillin represents. Okay, so I don't think I'm going to go with you to read all the psukim. Let's have a little bit of a conversation. And again, I'm following very much the essay of Rabbi Sachs and a little bit of Rabbi Chaim Sabato. So our parasha Tetsaveh. One thing that happens in our parasha is if I tell me 2 psukim where the name of Moshe Rabbeinu appears. Where is Moshe Rabbeinu? Who can find them for me? You want to go do a fast reading? Who can find the name of Moshe? The name of Moshe does not appear at all in our parasha. Kind of telling us, or telling Moshe, Moshe, it's not about you. This is one of the explanations. This is not about Moshe. This is about his brother Aaron. There is one interpretation that says that the name of Moshe does not appear because some rabbis will think that the parasha that is coming later, next week, Parasha Ki Tisa, is when Moshe Rabbeinu is coming down from Sinai. And what does he find there? Yes, Hashem tells Moshe, Red kishichet amecha, go down and see what your people are doing. And it's when Bnei Israel committed the terrible sin of the golden calf. And Hashem wants to destroy Am Israel. And what is Moshe Rabbeinu saying? Mecheni na misifrecha shel katavta. If you're going to do that, erase me from your book. I don't want to do any, it's kind of saying, of telling Hashem, I don't want to do anything with you. I don't want to have any connection. Take me out of your book. So that could be the reason why in our parasha, the name of Moshe is not appearing, like answering to his request of Moshe not being in the parasha. But let's do a little bit of history. The kehuna, the very special position of kehuna is given to whom? To Aaron. Kehuna, to be kohen. Sacerdote, how you say? I didn't know how to say it in English, that's why I kept it in Hebrew. Sacerdotal, I don't know. For sure, Rabbi Isaac is bringing it. So it's given to Aaron and his descendants. Yes? Heritage? No. To be a Kohen, to be a sacerdote. The priesthood, thank you. Yes, the priesthood. The priesthood is given to Aaron and his descendants. Not as other positions of power, like Nevuah or Melucha. Melucha actually, yes, but not from Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu that has Nevuah and has prophecy and leadership, he is not going to pass it on to his children. But the Kehuna, the priesthood, is going to pass from father to son, from father to son. Now, why is this passing to Aaron? What happened between these two brothers, Moshe and Aaron? And we've spoken about it a few times. Yes.
Because he wasn't jealous of him when Hashem gave.
There we start the story. Everything starts there. Yes.
I don't understand. Why Aaron is a Kohen and not Moshe?
Okay, let's try to see. Let's try to see why. First of all, we understand that somehow Hashem wants to have a division of power. Not one man holding everything. Like the prophecy and the leadership and the priesthood, there is division of power. And as Rabbi Isaac says, how you say, this kind of leadership needs to be able to be checked, to have checks and balances. Like has to be controlled, not one man show and I do everything and I do whatever I think. First of all, everything is by Hashem's commandment. Hashem is saying what to do. And if you remember in the parasha that we're going to read later, Parashat Korach, Korach was very jealous of Moshe. And Korach came with the I say, complain. Why do you take everything for yourself? You took this and you gave to your brother. And Moshe had to prove there at the end of the parasha how Aaron was chosen by Hashem. You remember they have to bring these branches and they have to flourish. Okay, if you don't remember, we will learn it whenever we get there. But what happened? In the book of Bereshit, we see, at least in 4 instances, how siblings don't get along. There is a lot of sibling rivalry with Cain and Abel, with Yaakov and Esav, with Yitzchak and Ishmael, then Yosef and the brothers, right? Then with the children of Yosef, Ephraim and Menashe, it starts feeling better. But then here Yosef comes, Moshe comes, is Baitro, and he finds the burning bush, and Hashem requests from Moshe, I want you to go on this mission. I want you to take my people out of Egypt. and Moshe refuses. And when Moshe refuses, the Torah is telling us, especially the Midrashim, that Hashem wasn't very happy about this with Moshe. Hashem, I want to read you from the Midrash. Hashem gets upset at Moshe. And what is Hashem telling Moshe? What Hashem tells Moshe? Okay, you don't want to go? I'm going to send Aaron. And sending Aaron will include also giving to Aaron the kehuna, the priesthood. Like Moshe is kind of being punished, or one of the roles that Moshe could have had is taken from him. Let me just find, here it is. Here, there is in the Talmud, there is a midrash that says like this. In the book of Shemot, when Moshe did not want to take the position that Hashem was giving it, it says, then the Lord's anger burned against Moshe. Hashem got upset at Moshe. So Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha said, every instance of divine anger in the Torah leaves a lasting effect, which means when Hashem shows some symptom of anger towards us, it's not for the moment only, is going to be expressed also in the future. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, here too is left a lasting effect, for it goes on to say, what about your brother Aaron the Levite? Surely Aaron was a priest, not just a Levite. But Hashem, when he tells Moshe, Aaron, your brother the Levi, is Aaron was supposed to be only a Levi. But he's going, what Hashem meant was, I originally intended that you, Moshe, would be a priest. And he, Aaron, would merely be a Levite. But now, because of your refusal, because you didn't agree to come and follow my word, my request to be the one that directs, that speaks with Paro and takes my kids and my children out of Egypt, he will eventually become a priest and you will only be a Levite. There is another opinion of why the name of Moshe does not appear in the parasha, is to not to cause him some tsar, some distress. Like he's going to suffer to remember, oh, I'm being punished. The keuna is being given to Aaron. So now what happens? What is the reaction of Aaron when Hashem is sending Moshe to Egypt to take the people out of Egypt? Moshe who was the older brother? Aaron. Moshe was the youngest. And Moshe was not part of them. He was kind of a stranger raised in the palace by an Egyptian princess. Then he just gets a little bit involved and he escapes and he lives for 40 years, say Chachamim at least. And then he stays in Midian with his father-in-law Yitro, and then he comes married, and then he comes like the leader that is going to take us out. Like, who do you think you are, Moshe? Show some respect to your older brother. But what is the Torah telling about Aaron? Veracha vesamach belibo. And he will see you and he will be happy in his heart. Pay attention that Aaron and heart are always very connected. Aaron is a man that has a big, big heart. He's a man that loves, that cares for others, that is generous, that is not looking bad when somebody takes more than him. There was a rabbi, I think it was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, that he asks his students, tell me, each one of you, which way do you choose to be the best one to live in this world? It's a Mishnah on Pirkei Avot. What is the best way to choose? And each one says one. One rabbi says, Ayin Tova, to have a good ayin. Another one says, to have a good friend, to have a good neighbor. And the one that says, Rabbi Arach says, Lev Tov, to have a good heart. So the rabbi says, he is the one that includes everybody else. Because having a good heart involves generosity, involves being a good friend, being a good person towards others. So it's a very important quality. Now, what is Aaron going to be? He's going to be the Kohen, And the clothing of Aaron are going to be also very much related to his heart. What is the ephod? The Choshen, the ephod the Torah tells us is Choshen HaMishpat, related to Mishpat, to judgment. What is the ephod? Do you know how was it used? Do you know? Yes, Natalie? In court? Actually, no.
Hashem would give a message through the stone, the right answer, or someone had a
Okay, so one thing I take from what you say is that is a mean of communication with Hashem. The ephod that the Kohen is wearing, sorry, the Choshen HaMishpat that the Kohen is wearing is going to facilitate the connection with Hashem. How is that? So it was used by Am Israel, by our kings. That was the direction, the instruction of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Whenever they had a question of national importance, like national need, then they would want to ask Hashem what to do. Imagine today, Memshelet Israel needs to decide if to respond to a rockets attack or not, and you have the ability to ask directly to Hashem, Hashem, what should we do? Should we react or not? What should we do? Should we send our soldiers to war or not? Are we going to be successful or not? Are we going to win this war or not? So today we don't have that. In the times that we had the Mishkan and then the Bet HaMikdash, that was one of the jobs of the Kohen. Through the Choshen HaMishpat, the kings were able to communicate and ask their question to Hashem. I have a class in Shmuel on Monday nights. Anybody here in our class? Okay, we just studied 2 chapters that were very much speaking about this. Chapter, I think it was 29 or 30, I'm not sure, I think 29. Shaul, the King Shaul, at one point, he is about to lose everything. He was already punished by Hashem. You are not going to continue being the king, not your descendants. Your melucha, your kingdom has been cut from you. Why? Because he wasn't obedient. In the war against Amalek, he decided not to kill the king, to enjoy some of the animals. So Hashem, through the Navi, is very strict with him. So now the Plishtim are coming to attack Israel. And Shaul wants to know what to do. So he cannot get an answer, not through the prophet, not through a dream, not through nothing. What he does something terrible. He goes to a woman that uses sorcery, but that is totally forbidden by the Torah, that he himself, the king, had commanded to kill all of them, but there is one left. And he goes to her to ask her what to do. And through her, he wants to bring Shmuel from his grave to tell him what to do. So Shmuel tells him, why are you bothering me? Why do you bother me? Like, the way to do things is not this. The way to do things is asking Hashem through Choshen HaMishpat. But Shaul doesn't even mention that he's embarrassed, because Shaul, I'm giving you a lot of information, you need to study the book. Shaul had killed a whole city of Kohanim. So he doesn't get the connection that he needed to get through the Kohen to know how to act. Very, very sad and tragic, the end of Shaul. No. So now let me give you another example. The chapter later, David, that is not a king yet, that is a future king, that is wanted by Hashem. His city has been attacked by the Amalekim. His women have been kidnapped, his children as well. They need to go and fight against them. So David, that has with him the only Kohen that Shaul was not able to kill, Eviatar, and he has Choshen HaMishpat. So Shaul tells Eviatar, come, let's ask Hashem, should I fight the Amalekim? Are we going to be successful? And Hashem answers, fight them. You're going to reach them and you're going to be able to save your people. So the question is done through the Kohen. The king would ask the Kohen, and somehow, we don't exactly understand, but there must be a lot written about it. Somehow the letters of the Choshen would lead on, forming words and sentences and giving the answer, something unbelievable. It sounds like magical. I don't know if you ever heard, I'm sure if you ever went to a shiur about Hannah and Shmuel, when Hannah comes to the Mishkan to pray for a child, she is praying like crying and without a voice. So Eli, that is the Kohen there, the Pasuk says, Vayechshevea Eli kashikora. What did Eli think when she was praying like that? Eli thought that she was shikora, that she was drunk. But then the Torah tells us, the Mefarshim, sorry, the rabbis tell us, he made a mistake in understanding the letters of the Choshen, because the letters were Kaf, Sin, Resh, Hey. That could be Kashikora, which means like drunk, but also means, could be read Kesara. Like the Choshen was telling Eli, she's barren, like Sarah was, and she's praying for a child. But it's a very interesting subject to study more, but this is one of the things that the Kohen had. So look, inside the Psukim, whenever it speaks about the Choshen, where is that? Look on page 470, Pasuk 29, after all the description of the breastplate, Su 28, they shall attach the breastplate from its rings to the rings of the ephod with a turquoise woolen cord, so that it will remain above the belt of the ephod, and the breastplate will not be loosened from upon the ephod. Aaron shall bear the names of the sons of Israel on the breastplate of judgment on his heart when he enters the sanctuary, as a constant remembrance before Hashem. Into the breastplate of judgment shall you place the Urim and the Tumim. They shall be where? On Aaron's heart when he comes before Hashem. And Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel on his heart constantly before Hashem. How many times did they read the word heart? 3 times. It's very much emphasized that this element of the Bigdei Kehuna, of the clothing of the priesthood, had to be worn on top of the heart, because Kohanim, a Kohen, represented what Aharon was. Very much generous on his feelings for Am Israel, for others. You know that Aaron ended up being much more popular than Moshe Rabbeinu. How do we know that? How do we know that Aaron was more popular than Moshe? By the way he was mourned. You know, I was watching the class that Sivan Rav Meir gave on this parasha. And I already read this, but I saw it, and it was so beautiful. She speaks in another instance, not about this. She brings something that happened in Israel last week. Jonathan Pollard's wife, Esther, passed away. Zichrona Libracha. So she shows there lines of people waiting to come for the Shiva, to visit him. How spontaneous. Like, this is what things that show you the feelings of the people. You cannot decide when a leader passes away, when a person is not here, I want everybody to come and pay respect. Usually these things happen in a very natural way. So for Aaron, Am Israel was mourning for him for 30 days. For Moshe Rabbeinu, we don't find that. We don't find that a long time of mourning, or not for Miriam, but for Aaron was 30 days. And why did everybody mourn so much for Yaakov? Why did they love him so much? Because his focus in life was always to make peace, to bring shalom. In Pirkei Avot, Hillel, the sage tell us, Hillel Omer, Heve mitalmidav shel Aaron, be like the students of Aaron, Ohev shalom, that loves peace, Rodev shalom, that pursues after peace, Ohev et habriot, loves everyone, Umekarbam la Torah, brings them closer to Torah. In order to teach and to bring people closer to Torah, there is a prerequisite. What do you need first? You need to love them. Okay, so this is a little bit about the Choshen HaMishpat that Aaron was wearing. The Torah is telling us in our parasha that the clothing of the Kohanim were lechavod uletiferet. What does it mean, lechavod uletiferet? I'm going back at the beginning of the chapter. Why is the Torah speaking about this? Here, Pasuk Bet, on page 465, you shall make vestments of sanctity for Aaron, your brother, for glory and splendor. What does it mean for glory and splendor?
Isn't it different? The Hebrew, he literally translated different than their translation.
Tiferet, what? Chavod,
What is like respect?
honor,
Yeah.
for honor and splendor. Right? This is one of the few times in the Torah that we see the importance of clothing. I recommend very much that you find the essay of Rabbi Sachs on clothing. He makes a whole overview of clothing in the Old Tanakh and how very often the clothes come actually to cover something, not to show who you are. Like, you know, Adam and Chava, after they sin, immediately they cover themselves. They are embarrassed. Yaakov, why, whenever he wants to trick his father, what does he do? He dresses like his brother. He puts some skins to look like something that he is not. So clothing are not always representing of what you are. Yes.
But as you're saying, clothing, I mean, sometimes in our religion, clothing too much is considered also materialistic.
Right.
So why now is considered a bit?
Very good. That's what I wanted to bring as a question. What? No, the question is, why is the Torah bringing such emphasis on the clothing of the Kohanim? Okay. Oh, very good. There are two goals. One is for the Kohen himself. When you wear the clothing, it makes you something. When you wear a uniform, you know that you have to act according to the uniform that you are representing. If you wear the uniform of Elal, you know that you are at this, you cannot be doing whatever. You are now representing Elal. You are not yourself. You know, if you are, I don't know, schools, sometimes schools, I remember being in a board in one of the schools and the question, is it good for students to have uniform or not? So from one side, it takes away the individuality that you want every child to be able to express their individuality. From the other side, the uniform, it puts you into certain structure. I belong to this place. I have to act according to this. So Aaron and the Kohanim are wearing this special clothing because they're representing the house of Hashem. So it's for the Kohen himself, and also for what you just said, for us. When we see the Kohen, it makes us relate to the place with the respect that it deserves. Okay, so when Yaakov Avinu is wearing the skins for his father to think that he's Esav, the effect is not only acting on Yitzchak that will feel, oh, Esav is here. The effect is also in Yaakov. The way I dress is going to affect the way I act. And it wasn't my plan, but I think it deserves it. I think it deserves a little bit, 2 minutes on the way we dress, especially as women. You know, it's very normal in the observant, religious, frum world to speak about tzniut and about how to dress and about the length of here and the length of there, cover here, cover there. But beyond that, I don't want to go into those details. I think that we really need to make more emphasis of what we've been doing until now with our daughters, especially because how the world is now. That the way you dress is giving a message to others. It's giving a message. Where do I want you to look at me? What do I want to convey? Like I remember reading, I think it was a book. What was her name? Forgot. It's not from me, but I remember reading this. That she was saying, she was bringing an example of two friends. One was very observant, dressing this, and the other friend that nothing. And this second friend had an interview to find a job as a lawyer. And then the friend comes to her house and she wanted to make a point. She said, okay, so here, how about you wear these shorts and this? She said, no, I'm going to an interview. I want to look professional. You know, you want to convey certain message. I remember Rabbi Garson in Israel, he used to say, when you dress as a woman, try always to think, if you want others to look at your eyes and see your soul and who you are, or to look more at your body, at the parts that you want to show. So try to think, what do you want others to see? And this same Rabbi Benito Garson, we worked with him, my husband and myself, in some groups in Israel, groups of teenagers. Like today, there is all these groups that go to Israel, not birthright because they were younger, they were high school age. So I remember one day, the program was to visit the Rav Rashi of Israel. It was a very special thing that they were able to get an audience for, they were mainly from Mexico and Panama, these kids, to bring these kids to visit the Rav Rashi of Israel. So I will never forget, Rabbi Benito Garson he is, Baruch Hashem, he lives in Israel, in Ranana. He is a very calm person, speaks very, you will never hear him raising his voice. But I was a counselor, I was in the dining room, and suddenly I hear him screaming at the children. He never screamed at them. What do you think? This is how would you go in your country to visit your prime minister, to visit a person of importance. This is how you go to visit the Rav Rashi of Israel. And he screamed at them and they were all in shock. And he sent them all to get dressed. Because they thought, you know, when you go to Israel to a trip in the heat of Israel, the kids go, you know, with almost no clothing. And he told them, I want you, and I'm not going to tell you what is respect. I want you to think, how do you go in a respectful way to visit the Rav Rashi of Israel? And that was I think it was an amazing lesson for these children. And putting aside modesty and tzniut, I think we need to think to ourselves, something that we are losing. How do we get dressed or teach our children to get dressed to come to Bet Knesset? That we have the Aron, the Torah, that words of Tefillah said. So I'm not even speaking about modesty, I'm speaking about respect. So, and when you dress certain ways, this is going to make you feel differently. If I dress the same when I go to a disco, that when I go to the Bet Knesset, for sure I'm going to feel the same. The way we dress makes us also act. So I think it's a very important message that perhaps we have to start working slowly, tipin, like we say in Hebrew, drop by drop. Because it used to be that society is kind of dictating us. You know, if you lived in a Christian country, people to go to church, they're very respectful. So it affects us. And then when we go to synagogue, we are also very, but today, where is respect? Where is religion? Where is nothing? So we need to take upon ourselves to really make a little bit of more emphasis on the way we dress. One small thing, just to finish with another idea, but I don't have the time we started a little bit late. In our parasha, one of the things that we see, with this I'm going to end, is the mitzvah of ketoret. Where is the ketoret? Who's going to help me to find it? Ketoret. Yes, it's at the end, page 483, chapter 30. You shall make an altar on which to bring incense up in smoke. Of acacia wood shall you make it. Its length a cubit and its width a cubit. It shall be square and its height. This is the mizbeach that is for incense. This is not mentioned on the previous parasha. It's mentioned here, and it brings the different types of spices that they had to bring in the ketoret. So just to say something about the ketoret, there is a spice that was brought together with the rest of the spices, and it was called chelbona. Chelbona was known to have a very bad smell. It wasn't aromatic. But Chachamim say, when you bring the chelbona, that little one that has bad smell is going to allow the other spices to bring out their good spice. To the point that if the chelbona wasn't present, the incense would not be accepted, would not be kosher. Chachamim in the Talmud say, Kol ta'anit she'en ba miposh'ei Israel ena ta'anit. Every fast that Am Israel does, and into the people that are fasting, you don't find one or two criminals. Criminals mean not really good people. The ta'anit doesn't have its value. We need to have a klal Israel, unification of all the parts of the people for things to be accepted. And the ketoret also, the spices needed to be grounded and put them all together in a way that you cannot identify any one of them. This is how we need to know that every part of Am Israel is important for the whole of the nation. So you have a lot to continue reading and see all the details. Shabbat Shalom.